Hi class, my name is Lauren Elliott, and today I will be presenting on the TV industry, and more specifically, inclusiveness in television. The TV industry faces a necessary challenge to mirror the diverse population with actors and actresses that represent our population and ways to grow their ethnic and racial diversity. By addressing underrepresented consumers, companies should be able to target and appeal to new markets and niches. Exclusion and lack of representation affects viewers and audiences everywhere, but how does it affect the entertainment marketing industry, and why is it important to include minority groups? We'll dive into these answers and relevancy in this presentation, so stay tuned. To briefly touch on the history of the lack of diversity in television, let's first go back to 1942, where the struggle for equality first became vocalized. People began to protest stereotypes and racist images during this time period and demanded they be removed from entertainment. Fast forwarding to 1963, the NAACP requested that Hollywood producers add one African American to each crew in the industry and suggested new employment opportunities since they were non-existent back in this time. There was barely any progress made, as only a few minorities had been cast in shows or behind-the-scenes hiring. Since 1942, all the way to today's date, groups have been confronting the issue on the lack of diversity and including people of color in entertainment. This issue is quickly approaching its 70th year. The World Bank defines social inclusion as the process of improving the terms on which individuals and groups take part in society, improving the ability, opportunity, and dignity of those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. Latinos, non-white Hispanics, African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, older women, people with disabilities, and sexual and gender minorities, including the LGBTQ+ community, are only some of the underrepresented groups in television and film. More and more people are beginning to see the problems associated with the lack of inclusion on television as our country's demographics change and become increasingly less uniform and similar. Audiences crave content that reflects the ever-changing diversity and want to see people who look like them. The attraction of television and movies is the idea that viewers can resonate their lives with on-screen characters and situations. This proves to be problematic as entertainment and media companies shape how we see our world. These issues are important to the television industry because, as the New York Times explained, diversity is parallel to specificness, and specificness is more eye-catching and overall entertaining, which draws in more audience viewers. A recent study found that the entertainment industry is disproportionately homogeneous, with 92% of film executives being white, along with 87% of television executives also white. Lowering this percentage would undoubtedly increase the number of roles played by a diverse cast and consequently attract more viewers because diverse audiences seek diverse content. NPR states that only 5.5% of screen time was devoted to underrepresented racial groups, although they account for more than 18% of the total population. The University of California, Los Angeles conducted a study called the Hollywood Diversity Report for 2021. It found that the shows that included casts that were at least 31% minority had higher social engagement and ratings. Furthermore, audiences between ages 18 and 49 peaked when the show's cast was made up of mostly minorities. This suggests that viewers want and enjoy more diversity on their television screens as it more accurately depicts the world we live in today. As you can see in this chart, Native Americans exhibit the lowest amount of screen time, totaling about only 0.4% across streaming services, cable, and broadcast networks, while the white population was overrepresented, with white characters receiving close to 80% of screen time, while only 60% of the population is white. As seen here, show creators mainly consist of whites, while the minority groups are well underrepresented. Hollywood has a lot of work to accomplish when it comes to inclusion and increased roles for people who fall within the minority. Part of accomplishing this goal is the addition of more representation in roles like show writers, executives, and directors.
Sarandos, thank you so much for joining us, co-CEO of Netflix and also Netflix's Chief Content Officer. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Your first interview since becoming co-CEO, but also on the occasion of releasing this comprehensive 2-year study of the diversity of Netflix's content. Tell us, what did you learn about where there are gaps in your diversity and where you want to do better?
Yeah. Good morning. First of all, good to see you at least virtually. I think, look, we commissioned this study because we wanted to figure out how we were doing, and our mission to make sure that the content on Netflix was representative of the communities that we serve. And we did it externally through a third party because we wanted to be held to a very rigorous standard. And this study through USC Annenberg measured us on 22 different inclusion metrics. And we wanted to be very public about it and be transparent about the report because we think that accountability is best served through transparency. So that's why we put it out so publicly, and we plan to every couple of years to let you see how we're doing and improving. What we saw in the data is that we have massive improvement in things like putting women behind the camera, putting women of color in roles, in director roles, in creator roles, which is incredibly helpful because that ripples through and it increases the employment of women and women of color through every discipline of TV and filmmaking, which is fantastic. We have a ton of work to do in other underrepresented communities, particularly Latinx, people with disabilities, and we're committed to doing that work.
And Ted, you also, as part of today's announcement, revealed that you are going to launch a fund for creative equity, a $100 million fund.
Research has found that television shows and movies that do not include a diverse cast and lack inclusive representation underperform by roughly 20% of their budget upon its opening premiere. Google ran a survey and found that about 65% of consumers stated they would purchase or consider buying an item or service from an advertisement that they viewed as diverse. These numbers suggest that networks and companies excluding certain populations or including very few are missing opportunities to reach new audiences and may even lose their current viewership. Inclusive TV is the world's first inclusive streaming platform, where identity and culture are the categories and everyone's story can be shared. This entertainment platform not only promotes inclusion, but it also provides various backgrounds and cultural identities to appeal to people of color, gender minorities, and many others through inspiration and entertainment. Inclusive TV has redefined the consumption aspect of the 4 C's by allowing viewers to watch their chosen show or movie wherever and with whomever they choose. With the unveiling of this new platform, audiences everywhere are now able to easily find something that meets their interests while also consuming it with others alike in the comfort of their homes. The content aspect of the 4 C's is also relevant here as movies, television series, and other forms of media adapt their product to allure people of all backgrounds and races. According to Forbes, 77% of millennials and 76% of teens have either bought or expressed interest in a service or product from a diverse or inclusive advertisement. Clearly, including minority communities is influential in the buying process and consuming process as well. No matter how one sees it, close to 80% of all minority populations and the majority want to see themselves and others featured in everyday media. Companies who choose to use this information to their benefit will receive a higher number of viewers, which will increase the network's profit. It's a win-win situation for everyone. Television shows like Blackish, Fresh Off the Boat, Jane the Virgin, and Empire are all great examples of how inclusion and diversity are easily obtainable if networks make it a priority, and clearly ABC has. These TV series demonstrate the likely continuing change of culture and business. Advertisers want as broad of an audience as possible to reflect a customer base that's rapidly becoming more inclusive. Nearly 80% of top advertisers invested in the LGBTQ+ programs, and almost 90% invested in ads that feature Black women. Additionally, Netflix and Disney proved to be leaders in changing the diversity narrative. Netflix has recently added a collection of various movies aimed at the LGBTQ+ community, plus the addition of the Black Lives Matter film collection. Among streaming services' most viewed programs in 2020, over 90% have some presence of diversity, and it's continuing to grow every day. Marketers within the industry have overlooked the importance of fair representation and diversity for far too long, causing missed growth potential. So, while the industry is slowly but surely making progress, it still has a long way to go before the ratio of minority groups matches the number of groups we so commonly see on our television today. The themes in media and entertainment influence and shape our perceptions and beliefs. Knowing this, the entertainment industry should strive to include all races, ethnicities, genders, and communities to help foster a diverse and equitable viewing experience for all. Here are my references. Thank you all for giving me your time today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.